The Stochastic Fiction Game. The Stochastic Fiction Game is a timed writing game where I'm going to go ahead and just kind of click that and see what time we got. Hour and 14 minutes to write a story. The story will be written upon these Stochastic Fiction outline story elements that are created right now and in this file. I'm going to open up and look at these story elements, and within this next time limit, the hour and now 13 minutes about, we're going to create a story based upon the story elements in this file and read it and rate it at the end. For today's Stochastic Fiction Game story elements, the story elements we need to follow to be able to succeed at this game are setting time future, setting main location school, conflict person versus person, point of view third, quantity of primary characters many, tense past tense, genre fable, format, well, I get to choose that today. As I always like to try to complete a saying a day, so let's go ahead and have this be flash fiction so I can make sure that I have it for the beginning and the end of the day. Other than this, I could be selecting something such as first chapter of a novel, middle chapter of a novel, or final chapter of a novel. I think someday I may put poem in here, but that's not necessarily stochastic fiction. But we'll go flash fiction as the format. Let's type that in. Those are today's story elements for this Stochastic Fiction game. Under an hour and 13 minutes left to write this story. In the future, school, person versus person, and Fable. Fable. I have some good American lies or historical stretching the truth. I always want to go back to look at Fable versus Tall Tale. I think Tall Tale is what I had pop in my mind first. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a search and return engine, type in the word Fable, and read the definition aloud where I get it. Fable, not a video game that I've ever played, apparently. Very popular one. A short story, typically with animals as characters, conveying a moral lesson. A fictitious tale. Is not a dream nor a fable. A moral, conveying a moral between two animals. And so it's always good if you're going to talk about morals. The only morals I truly know right now are my own. And even those I probably don't know very well because I believe I know them. But until you actually look in the mirror or have someone else reflect upon you back what they get impressed by you, then you really don't know. I can say I'm a moral person and my acts are completely different, which seems to be the acts of a lot of our leaders these days. Quote unquote leaders. Fable, I think I'll go there. A moral. So can we do as past tense and mini? Let's do something about I know. It just popped in my mind. I was just thinking of like how animals would deal with borders and whether one's illegal or not in a certain part of the land and what rights they have to be in that land and how to convey that through animals properly in a fable. And one of the things that popped into my mind was like the national parks. In the national parks, I used to work in one years ago. It was a short order cook, and the dishwasher wasn't doing no ranger work or anything like that. Worked for the recreational services at the time. I think I was there 9 months. And I remember joking about how good the animals had it in a national park versus like once they exited the boundary of the national park, they're a lot more susceptible to being shot and killed by humans versus when they're in a national park, you can't kill the wildlife. And like what the animals would do who lived in the national park if other animals who did not originally were born in the national park wanted to come and take over their territory. And this was Too long ago. 31 years ago. Um, yeah. Let's do that. What kind of animal are we talking about here? A deer? Deer are famously hunted in many lands. The deer hunting season when that peaks up. At least where I grew up, deer hunting season was at least one of those weeks. Like half the classmates were gone deer hunting. Um, yeah. So that's what it's gonna be. Deer hunting because I in the area I can imagine people deer hunting too. It's just popular. At least around where I grew up, it was a thing. Bow hunting season was a thing. You could hunt with a bow and hunt with a gun to go find those nasty deer, which did keep the population down a little bit. Um, those pesky deer out of your pesky fields, or maybe even running down on the freeway, have other humans kill them in different ways. Not that I objected, I just hunting to me was boring as hell when I went deer hunting. I think I've spoke of it before, but I have to like get back into that frame of mind. The camping was fun. I really enjoyed the nighttime when all the adults got drunk and started talking shit. That was kind of funny. You always were given that like swig of beer and you thought it was disgusting and everyone laughed when you spit it out, which I did. But the hunting part, walking around cold and wet and, the adult gets pissed off because you step on twigs or an occasional branch, that's fucking annoying. Makes it not fun and cold and for why? It's not my thing. I get it. I felt it maybe once, but it wasn't worth the effort. But I'm going to use that as this story, just to sort of give up my experience with deer hunting, and why I'm going to choose deer, just because you write. You can only write what you know. And let's do that. Then let's make it the park I worked in was Zion National Park. It even got a great name, Zion. That way you can like have this hint of like God too. Like this concept of like these people who believe in a savior and Jesus Christ is their savior, some of the most racist, bigoted assholes I've ever met in my life. The militant Jesus. And I go down that route because I think that'd be like using the Zion and then having like these deer that live there. So how am I gonna like trigger it? I mean, you're just as likely, honestly, to die in Zion National Park as a deer as you are in a hunting field because cars going to come up and smack you. At least when I was working there. I think they've changed the traffic laws there, so they let less traffic through Zion National Park. But still, there's many a deer at a time when you just drove slow, and a lot of people didn't. So it's a very real thing, getting hit by a car in Zion National Park. Maybe that's what I'll have. Maybe that's the moral lesson. They die anyway. Like the big argument about trying to get into Zion National Park. And I think that's it. Yeah. I think I'm going to go. Zion National Park. Let's do that. Let's call it. I would never usually name it first, but I like the idea of Zion. We'll just call it. I'm going to start with the title. This is going to work out. I like this so far. So just make sure I got everything. Oh, it's got to happen in a frickin' school. Fudge. Damn it. I could lie. I guess there was technically, God, it has to happen in school. and it's a fable. So it's person versus person. It has to be animal versus animal in a frickin' school. Damn it. I had a great story. That was a good story. And I got an hour and 3 minutes left. I love the time. Fuck. I'm going to swear a lot today. I'm sorry, but there's the mind. It's in a state. Especially when I just built up a story that I thought was going to be really good because it had a lot of... Now, if I'm in a school, maybe I could do the same thing, but with animals in cages or in aquariums, like two lizards. Or maybe it could be someone that's in, maybe it's a mouse. Maybe there's the mouse in the cage and the mouse outside the cage. And the mouse in the cage thinks that their cage is the best cage. And they tell the mouse outside the cage to get outside of the cage. Whoa, that's dark. I'd almost be going against this concept of borders. You're just caging yourself in. And ultimately, we always have to pick a side. I think humans, if nothing else, are hurting animals. For the most part, we seem to have proven that. I've known hermits in my life, and there have been very few. One, yeah. And most of them were, yeah. So, I can't call it Zion National Park. Unless it was a school trip, but it has to be in a school. Main location, school. And I can't have two deers on a bus or in this class. But I can have two mice. Two mice. One in a cage and one outside a cage. The one outside the cage just goes in the urine. And they can escape the cage, but they love their cage. They know where their poop's at. They know where the food's coming. The mouse outside, what's the person versus person? So two mice. The main location, school. Quantity of primary characters, many point of view third, tense past tense. Genre fable. Format flash fiction. Future too, boy. Whatever. I got two mice, they're in the classroom. They can talk. I don't know what moral lesson is that I had the moral lesson with the deer. Like, and oh man, wish I had another 11 minutes I could talk. Usually I've been doing this for 90 minutes. Now I'm going to try to do it just different times. It would make it more stochastic. When does my mind have to cut off the data flow to these random variables to create a thing and just pull out what I know? Get out of my cage. Maybe I can imagine one of these is Ralph S. Mouse, the famous mouse. I can't, man, whose name is, I read those books when I was younger. The one that could get on a bicycle and make a noise with his mouth and the motorcycle would move. I mean, yeah, that was fun. Back when I didn't have to deal with pest control. Get out of my cage. We'll call this one Ralph. It says Ralph. And that's dark. It really is. We live in dark times, though. We're not in the 80s anymore. 90s. My God, the 90s. Talk about that balance of bliss. You just started to know some stuff because of the internet, but it really wasn't controlling your life. Now it's just data, not even the internet anymore. The 90s. The 80s, of course, nothing. So you just had to rely upon whatever lies they told you in school with their own personal biases and lack of resources to properly educate themselves. Of course, we found with too many resources, people can still do the same thing. Get out of my cage, says Ralph. I'm not going to call Ralph S. Mouse. Ralph the Mouse. Ralph's the House Mouse. I love the rhyme of that. It's a fable, too. Right, Ralph the House Mouse. That way we can at least define the differences between these mice. What's the other mouse's name? It's going to be like a snake. Snake wants the mouse to come sit in it. The snake says, Hippie the snake. Swirly the snake. That's what a kid would call it. Swirly the snake. Swirly the garden snake. I don't know if garden snakes eat bugs, though. Right? Maybe this is a little bit more predatorial, but the python. Mumbles. I think this mumbles. Swirly the python mumbles. Yeah, I don't. Swirly the python mumbles. Come to my cage. What's my mouse's name? Ralph S. Mouse. Ralph the House Mouse. Oh, that works out for me. At least puts a smile around. Maybe I should call this Ralph the House Mouse. That could be fun. Fun for me, at least. And well, who else do I have to please right now? This is my own mental masturbation. Get out of my cage. Get out of my cage. Get out of my cage, says Ralph the House Mouse. Johnny, what's man, my dice. I was gonna get one of those things, but I seem to have forgotten it. I really don't want to get up, so I will just make this just a female gendered name, just so we can I don't have to think too much. And I've already got a Mel, and we'll get into all the multitudes just to make we just gender wash this with everything. It really doesn't matter. I can make Sue the House Mouse or some ungendered version of a name that a mouse would give themselves because they're just not humans. Get out of my cage, says Ralph the House Mouse. Cage. You're in my... Move your cage from my room. Yes. Move your cage from my room. Says what? Piney? I would like have it be a name that is not one that you'd give a human, and more of an action like one that you'd give yourself if you were a mouse in New English, American English at that, because let's even further classify. I'm the one writing it. United States of American English. USA English. I think I should start calling it USA English. I've been arrogantly calling it American English for a long time, but that's really hubris of me. Shows my egotistical leaning towards. So let's just call it USA English from now on. Anyway, side tangent, but it'll help me get through this story. You move your cage from my room, says Picker. Nibbler. Nibbler the mouse. I can't say house mouse. Nibbler, I got to give it a different thing though. Nibbler the free mouse. Nibbler the free mouse. Swear the python mammals come to my cage. And coils. Nibbler's nose twitches. Yeah, no. No. So what's the conflict? So this is the conflict, person versus person. These are my people for this fable. It's Ralph. What's the moral lesson we're trying to teach here? Yeah, that they were brought in by the human. You know, the human. Get out of my room. Am I just gonna have a dialogue day? Maybe. I mean, a lot of the fables are dialogue. For the most part. I mean, there's, I guess, some action to set up the dialogue to be able to start giving moral character to animals. Anthropomorphic. I hope that's, I'm not going to look that up, but I think that's the word I'm looking for, or at least a word that sounds like the word I'm looking for. If I were to get pedantic, that'd probably be wrong, but that wouldn't be the last time, nor the first time today. Neither nor. Okay. So Swirly the python mammals come into my cage and coils on the warm walk next to the aquarium glass wall. Nibbler noses twitch. No, and looks at Ralph. She looks at Ralph. Get out of my room. Give me. Nibbler. Nibbler holds a thimble. Excuse me. What's moral lesson? I don't know. Make one up. Okay, so let's just. I should be doing this past tense. Third person, I got that. Mini, there's three. Person versus person, mouse versus mouse in this case. Main location, school. Yeah, I got that. The house mouse, the future. The future? Whatever. It's the future for two mice. When they're injected with brain nanos and they're able to think at a higher level. That's where we're at. Nibbler's nose twitches. Get out of my room or give me a couple of those pellets so I don't have to try to disarm the trap under the sink. Nibbler's held. Okay, I got to do past tense. That's right. Okay, so let's get out of that. This is fine. I didn't go that far. Just got to change some words like said, mumbled, coiled. Time, 46 minutes left. At least I got something. Nose twitched. Nibbler held. Okay, I'm there. Ooh, yeah, not your room, said. Not your water. Oh, it's like it's like poor people. Okay, now I found the moral lesson. In this, the reflective nature would. That's it. Yeah. And it's in a controlled classroom created and controlled by a specific human. While the other story of the deer, I could have went with. Because one they'd get hit by a car. They'd complain about going in there. And then the other deer of the place would get hit by a car. You're not safe anywhere. But I like this lesson better. We're going to have one mouse arguing for the human. Ralph raises a hand. Not your room. Ralph shakes. Gonna make him real. I like this way this is going. Ralph shook their head. Not your room. Raised a palm. Like it's a stop sign. And we got an apostrophe. We're not possessing it. Like it's stop sign. Teacher Susan. Teacher something. Teacher. Treacher. Teacher. Yes, it's teacher. It's teacher. Treacher. Teacher Films. Oh, we got to do a last name, like Teacher Smith. Polson. It's Teacher Polson's room. That's not true. Lots of body action, not your water. Let's make these like real. And now, Nibbler drinks the thimble of water. And walks over. To Ralph's pile of, I don't know, like food. I don't know, like, I never owned a hamster. I knew people who owned hamsters. And I'd always, when I went to the mall, but these aren't hamsters, even with mice though, similar. I've known people who owned rats. And I knew people who, no, I knew people who had snakes at one time and had mice only to feed to the snake, which they just eventually just stopped doing. And I don't know if it's a snake. Yeah, too long ago. And I never like witnessed this. It was a story that had happened. So, not that I'm saying they're bullshitting me, but I've got no real visceral experience of anyone feeding a mice to a. Oh man, that's what could happen. Get fed to the snake. Oh man. Owns this water and me. Takes care of me. I think if I introduce a snake, someone's getting fed to that snake. My water now. Of food pellets. It nibbles. I think I gotta have the urination, like the spreading of. Yeah. Nibbler drinks a thimble of water. Water now, and walks over to Ralph's pile of food pellets and nibbles on its end. Food pellet end. My food. Not my food. Nibbled, nibble, drank. Dang it. And walked over to Ralph's pile of food pellets. Um, um, let's do this. Ralph scurried circles around Nibbler. And peas on the, what do they have, like the little wood flakes, if I remember, for hamsters to make it soft and hide the poo and absorb the pee. Like shavings of some, like wood flakes, maybe. The wood flakes. There's your water. Here. You can have some of my water. I got it, she says with a mouthful of food. I'm starting to see this character. You can have some of my water. Never swallows. And I gotta have uh you wanna come? I think that's what's gonna happen. I mean, I can have it. I got 33 minutes left. I can get this done. They're gonna. Teacher Polson will come into the room. The mouse will scatter, leave to, and the other mouse will stay. and then the teacher Polson will take the mouse and put it in the python's cage, and it'll get ate. I'm not. The moral lesson is, yeah. I don't know. Like I have this idea. I don't want to think about it because I got to get this actually in past tense too. Scurried circles, chewed, peed, said. I got a pile of newspaper and dog treats. I don't know treats. We can go. Those are too dry. It's my home. Um, the door opens. The classroom door opens. And the light flicks on. Nibbler says, "Come with me." And scurried, said, flicked on, flickered on. Nibbler said, and scurried. Up the cage wall and through a thin gap. In the ceiling. Nibbler stopped and seen Teacher Polson set their shoulder bag on their desk and looked over at the row of aquariums, cages, and of snakes and mice and one with chicken eggs. Come. And scurried to the corner. Feature Poland. Polson? Poland. What did I just change this person's name? Teacher Polson. Indy Ness. I think I'm almost done with this. I want to get the name right. Polson. I'm going to leave that. I can read over it. So 2 weeks, Nibbler walks around the cage. You're free to leave. The classroom door opened, and the light flickered on. Nibbler said, "Come with me," and scurried. Nibbler stopped. Nibbler said, "Come," and scurried to the corner. Mr. Polson. Teacher Polson. Walked over to the cages, the aquarium, and said, "Good morning." John. To a lizard on a heat rock. Set a piece of lettuce near the rock. Teacher Polson in the heat vent near the sink. Walked to Ralph. Ralph scurried to the glass, to the wire wall. And petted the wall. And sniffed and twitched. Excitement to see Teacher Polson. And squeaked, "Teacher Polson." Teacher Polson said, "Good morning, Ralph." He grabbed Ralph from the cage. What did I name the snake? Hiss. Swirly, wow. Swirly and open swirlies. Good morning, Swirly. Here's breakfast. Okay. That's it. I'm done. We got 22 minutes left. I don't think I want to ruin it with more words. Is this future? It's in the school. It's person versus person. We got 2 people in here. We got many characters. We got 4. Third person, yes. Past tense, yes. Fable, I think so. The moral lesson is don't be a house mouse. I guess I'm a house mouse though. Unfortunately, I suppose I'm the one that's gonna get picked up by Teacher Polson and fed to the snakes. In the end. What should we call this? House mouse? Yes. Ralph the house mouse. Let's just call it house mouse. I'll go with that. I'm done. I think so. Like that's a story for me. Let's just read it and be done and move on and process on with other things. For today's, I got a burp. I should do that before I read the story. I know you really don't want to know, but it tasted like oatmeal and coffee. The burp, that is. You find definition in your life. Just the more you express it, the more you remember, and if you're a creator or a writer of things, then you're more likely to remember it. Just say it out loud. For today's stochastic fiction game story, with the story elements setting time future, setting main location school, conflict person versus person, quantity of primary characters many, point of view third, tense past tense, genre fable, format flash fiction. The story for today's stochastic fiction game is called House Mouse. House Mouse. Get out of my cage, said Ralph the house mouse. Move your cage from my room, said Nibbler the free mouse. Swirly the python mumbled, get into my cage, and coiled on their warm rock next to the aquarium glass wall. Nibbler's nose twitched, ah no. And she looked at Ralph, get out of my room, or give me a couple of those pellets, so I don't have to try to disarm the trap under the sink. Nibbler held a thimble of water before Ralph. Trade some water fresh dripped from the sink, and not from your weak old sludge, for the food. Ralph shook their head. Not your room. He raised a palm before the thimble like it's a stop sign. Not your water. He folded arms. It's Teacher Polson's room and water, and me, Teacher Polson owns me and takes care of me. Nibbler drank the thimble of water, my water now, and walked over to Ralph's pile of food pellets and nibbled on one's end. Ralph scurried circles around Nibbler. And you steal my food and Teacher Paulson's water? Here, Nibbler chewed and peed on the wood flake floor. She said with a mouthful of food, "You can have some of my water." Nibbler swallowed. "I got a pile of newspaper and dog treats taken from Teacher Paulson in the heat vent near the sink. We can go." Nibbler dropped the uneaten pellet. "How long has that been sitting in here?" 2 weeks. Nibbler walks around the cage. "You need to get out of this cage. It's my home, not yours. You're free to leave." The classroom door opened, and light flickered on. Nibbler said, "Come with me," and scurried up the cage wall through the thin gap in the ceiling. Nibbler stopped and seeing Teacher Polson sat their shoulder bag on their desk and looked over at the row of aquariums and cages full of snakes, mice, and one with chicken eggs. Nibbler said, "Come," and scurried to the corner. Teacher Polson walked over to the cages and aquariums and said, "Good morning, John," to a lizard on a heat rock, and Teacher Polson set a piece of lettuce near the rock. Teacher Polson walked to Ralph. Ralph scurried to the wire wall and sniffed and twitched excitement to see Teacher Polson and squeaked, "Teacher Polson." Teacher Polson said, "Good morning, Ralph," and he grabbed Ralph from the cage and opened the swirly cage, saying, "Good morning, Swirly. Here's breakfast." Well, of the rating of 1 to 4, I think I like that story. I'm going to be easy on myself today. I don't think I'd need to rewrite it. I would need to edit it, make it smell a little bit better. But I think for a 4 for today's Stochastic fiction game. And with the game being done, let's go ahead and save the time and save the completion of it. Write the story. And that was the Stochastic fiction game for today. Let's all realize we're all house mouses right now, everywhere in the world. The free movement of people may do us a little bit of good. I think it does, because it shows us things that, well, help us realize that there's a world outside our own house. Wherever we call that house, be it a tent, a piece of sidewalk, or some home, apartment. Until then, try to get out. Try to realize there's a diversity of people in the world and try to live with them.